Hello all, welcome to Tutlings. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to deploy an ASP.NET Core MVC application on Google Cloud Platform. We will be deploying our ASP.NET Core MVC's application on Google Cloud Run, and our application will be talking to a PostgreSQL database, and it will also perform some file uploads and read those files from a Google Cloud storage. So without further ado, let's get started. In our previous tutorials, we have seen the code that we have used for Animal Kingdom, and we have ran it locally and it worked very well. And we are able to upload the files that actually uploaded files to Google Cloud Storage. The tutorial for that is already available on my channel Tutlings, and the URL for that is available on the screen, and I will leave the description with the reference to this URL. Also, I have made a very clear tutorial on how to create a Cloud SQL PostgreSQL instance on Google Cloud Platform and connect it from your local PC via pgadmin port. So with that reference tutorials in place, we will proceed our journey. So here I'm on console.cloud.google.com. So I'll go ahead and create a new project. My project name will be Animal Kingdom, and I'll choose the Google Cloud Platform trial billing account, and I'll leave the location as is, and I'll go ahead and click on create. We see that the project is created. So let's switch to that project, and we see that Animal Kingdom is created. The first thing we are going to do is we have to enable few APIs and services. So for that, I'm here on the search. I have searched for enable APIs and services. Click on enable APIs and services. For this project, we will enable few of the services. The first one is Cloud SQL Admin API. We'll go ahead and click on enable. Meanwhile, this gets enabled. We'll go back again and search for Cloud Build. We'll click on the result, choose enable. As we are going to deploy our ASP.NET MVC application on Cloud Run, we'll also enable the Cloud Run API. Click on the first result that shows as Cloud Run API and click on enable. As we will be saving our application related environment variables and certain secrets and credentials in our secret manager, we will go ahead and enable that. And our Cloud Run API actually needs a service account that runs on compute. So we'll go ahead and enable compute. So the first thing we are going to create as a part of this deployment tutorial is the Cloud SQL database, which generally takes more than 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and do that quickly. So here I'm on the menu to choose SQL, and I'll go ahead and create an instance and choose PostgreSQL. Let's enable the API. Have landed directly on the instance. So here I'll be giving the instance name as Animal Kingdom instance, and the password will be 12s. And I'll be going ahead with the default PostgreSQL version 14. That is the latest and greatest of the versions that we have available on GCP as of today. I'll choose a configuration as development for the demonstration purpose. You can pick around the configuration details in depth. I'll focus less on the creation part because I have already covered that in this video. I'll leave the link for this video in the description of this video. I'll go ahead and choose the single zone, and finally the configuration. I'll reduce the size of the machine because of the demonstration purpose, and also choose only 10 GB of storage. Connections is something that I want to enable public IP access for this database because I should be able to connect to this database from my local PC. That's why I need the public IP address. And on the contrary, my PC has an IP address which needs to be registered here. So I'll go ahead and add that IP address here in my network, and the IP of that PC, my PC will be, I have landed on check ip.amazonaws.com. This will give you the PC's IP. So you can do the same for your own IP address, right? So I have captured that, and I am providing that IP address here, and click on that. And I'll leave the default values as is, and I'll go ahead and click on create instance. As we have already seen in our previous video, this instance creation generally takes more than 25 minutes. So meanwhile this gets created, we'll go ahead and create other resources that are necessary for our project. The first thing is we'll go ahead and create a cloud storage. For that, navigate to the wrench icon, and here you will find a cloud storage. Click on that. Click on create a bucket. Give the bucket name of your choice. I'll be giving it animal kingdom bucket. Click on continue. For the demonstration purpose, I'll go ahead with the single region, which is US East 1, South Carolina. Click on continue. I'll go ahead with the standard storage class for the data that I'm saving on this cloud storage bucket, and go ahead with the continue. And I'll leave the default values as is for the access control, which is the default value of uniform. And I'm enforcing the public access prevention on this bucket such that no one else who has got the URL of this bucket will be able to access. So after that, I'll choose how to protect the object data. I'll go ahead with the default protection tool. Otherwise, you can also choose the object versioning, which is best for the data record. And I'll leave that as is and click on create. It is asking me for the confirmation that the public access will be prevented for this bucket that I'm about to create. So I'll go ahead and click on confirm. This is a kind of second confirmation that it will ask for us, right? So meanwhile, this bucket is created. We will go ahead and create a cloud run. But before that, we have to wait for this database to be created. So once this database is created, we will connect back. So it's been 23 minutes ever since we created the database instance, and it is being created in the background. So we still have a couple of minutes left to get this finished. But before we proceed, so here is the code that we have used in our previous tutorial, which actually is a ASP.NET Core version 6 MVC based application that actually has a models that are entity framework models, and the views are Razor views, and controllers are MVC controllers, right? So we'll go ahead and add a cloudbuild.yaml file, which is right click on the project, add new item, and we will name it as cloudbuild.yaml, and we'll have this pasted in this YAML file, and we can ensure that it is at the root of the repository directory, right? If you just open this project in File Explorer, right in the root, you will find this cloudbuild.yaml. All right. So this YAML file is needed because our deployment is going to be on Cloudrun, and that is happening through build triggers, right? So that were actually being created in our cloud build. One of the trigger will actually read out this cloudbuild.yaml file, and based on the steps that were mentioned in this YAML file, it will execute the steps in the sequential form and publishes this application onto the Google Cloud Run. So let's look at what's in this YAML file. So we can see that there are three steps in this. The first one is the build. Here, what we are doing is we are building this application, and the second step is we are pushing the application, and the third step is we are deploying the application using gcloud command. So in the build step, we are actually reading the instructions that were present in the Docker file, right? So this is the default Docker file that got generated when we created this ASP.NET Core MVC application. This is standard. We can go ahead and start using this as is, unless you want to have some customizations. But I'm going ahead with the default template that is generated by Visual Studio for me when I created this project. So what's happening in this Docker file is it is taking ASP.NET 6 as a base image and setting the work directory. It is exposing the port 80 and 443 for HTTP and HTTPS versions of the application. And with the base build, which is .NET SDK, it is actually building the CS project in release mode and publishing the release artifacts to the app build directory. And once it has generated the release documents to this directory, from the another SDK, which is named as publish, so it builds the project and it is publishing, but this time using a post files, right? So when you use this, you can enable this application to run on any operating system, especially Linux variants, right? So from this base image, we are creating another variant as a final, and then copying the contents of the published release artifacts to the Docker container images directory, which is the work directory slash app. So once that release artifacts were copied over to the app directory, we will have the application, I mean the project files entry point DLL, which is animalkingdom.dll, and we are issuing the command .NET space animalkingdom.dll that will spin up this application for us, right? So this is what the first step in our cloud build. Uh, it is actually building the image from the instructions that were mentioned in the Docker file. And the second step is that image, once built, is being pushed to the Google Container Registry based on the environment variables we are about to configure when we are spinning up the Cloud Run application. And once the push of the image succeeds, then it goes ahead and deploys the image using the cloud gcloud command, and the image will be pushed onto the region that we have specified, and the service name, which will be the name of the cloud run that we are about to create, right? So this is about the cloud build YAML in detail, right? So let's close this and let me check in this. Let me undo this change and cloud build. What I'll do is just commit staged and push. So in the meanwhile, we see that the database instance is also created, right? So I'll go ahead and click on this instance, and we'll come back to this repository, which was changed a while ago. But if I refresh this, I should see the latest commit. Okay, let me push that. I'll just check out the main branch. Let me push that quickly on the main branch. Let's switch back to our Cloud Console. We see that the Animal Kingdom instance database is created, and here I am on the database. But meanwhile, let's come back to the Animal Kingdom repository, and here we have the latest cloudbuild.yaml file that we have just pushed. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and look into the various aspects that I have to configure on the database instance. The first thing is connections, right? So in the connections menu, under the networking tab, you will find authorized networks, which I have added already, which is the IP address of my PC, and I have whitelisted. Ensure that you also whitelist this, because we have to apply migrations as our application is using entity network, and we need to apply the migrations such that the Animal Kingdom database should reflect here, right? So the first thing we are supposed to do is go ahead and run those migrations. As our application is having secrets, I'll go ahead and edit them such that it points to the public IP address of this database instance. So I'll copy this and paste it here. And before I run this command, I see that I have only one default database that is created as a part of the DB instance creation. So I'll go ahead and connect to this database from my local PC using PC admin. So if you don't know how to connect, you can go through this video tutorial to connect to the cloud instance of SQL Postgres database. So what I'll do is register this server, which is an Kingdom GCP, and then the host will be the public IP address, and the password is the one that we have created. If at all you forget the password, you can always go to users and change the password and set that. The same password has been used here. All right. So I'm able to successfully establish the connection for my remote cloud SQL, which is out there deployed on GCP. Right. I don't see any Animal Kingdom database. So from the Visual Studio, as I have pointed out, this database server, which is a database server running on GCP, and I'll go ahead and update database. So it is executing the migrations, and yeah, it has created the database, and then it is creating all the migration scripts, which includes one of the script includes creation of animal table. So let's switch back to our PG admin and refresh this. We should be seeing the new Animal Kingdom DB. All right. The schemas will have a public schema wherein the table will have animals table. All right. So first thing is creating the database through migration, which is done. Now, if we land back on our GCP instance of Cloud SQL, we will see the Animal Kingdom database got created, reflected here. So once we have this in place, the next thing we are supposed to do is go ahead and add few secrets. We'll open the menu and navigate to security. And here you will see the option secret manager. I have opened this secret manager in the new tab. The first secret I'm going to create is the Animal Kingdom context, which is the database connection string name. And the value for that will be this form, right? So it has to be having this nomenclature when it comes to connection string that points to the PostgreSQL database on Google Cloud, right? So it should have the value that starts with slash cloud SQL forward slash and then the project ID region instance. These values we can obtain from our database, which is the overview page. You will find the connection name and copy this. The database name is something that we have just created through migrations, is Animal Kingdom DB, and the user ID is Postgres. Unless otherwise you have any other user, you can go ahead and give that user name, and the password is this. So I'll go ahead and save this secret as a connection string in the secrets, and I'll go ahead and leave the default values as is and click on create secret. So the next thing I'm going to do is create another secret, which is service account users key. So for that, I'll go ahead and click on navigation menu, click on IAM and click on IAM in the new tab. So here you will find the service account option. So I'll create a new service account and the name of the service account will be Animal Kingdom as in AK and cloud storage. So this is something like I'm following the principle of least privilege, wherein I'm enforcing that this particular service account user will only have access to a role, which is Google Cloud Storage and Storage Object Admin. The reason for the Storage Object Admin rather than Storage Admin is I should be able to create buckets and view the contents of the buckets and also delete the contents of the bucket, right? So if you want to create another service account, uh, who should have access only to read the contents of your bucket, you can go ahead and click on storage object viewer. But I'll go ahead and choose this and click on continue and I'll leave the defaults, click on them. And once I have created this cloud storage service account, I'll go to the details and in the keys tab, I'll go ahead and add key, create a new key, select the key type as JSON, click on create and once the JSON is downloaded, the JSON looks like this. So back to our secrets, we'll go ahead and create a new secret. This time, the secret will be GCP storage auth file, right? And its contents will be the JSON string. So I'll go ahead and leave the default values as is and click on create secret. And the third one I'm going to create in the secrets is you can maintain that as either environment variable or secret, which is like the name of the bucket, which we have had in our app settings.json, right? So the bucket name will be created as a secret but you can go ahead and define it as an environment variable on Cloud Run service. So as we have created a storage, let's go and look at the cloud storage. The value will be the name of the bucket and secret value. All right. So click on create secret. All right. So with this in place, we'll go ahead and click on Cloud Run and click on create service. So we are about to create a Cloud Run where our application will be deployed, right? So there are various ways that you can create this Cloud Run. So we will go ahead with the continuous deploy new revisions from a source repository, right? So I'll go ahead and click this. The other alternative approach, which is the default one selected here, is deploy one revision from existing container image, right? So if you have a container or an image that is already available, right, you can just refer that container image here. But we'll be enabling the CI/CD such that whenever a new commit or a pull request that gets merged onto the main branch of our Animal Kingdom repository, the new image that got generated and pushed onto the gcr.io will be deployed onto this Cloud Run. We will configure that automation, continuous deployment here through this option, and we will be deploying it with the help of cloudbuild, right? So you can optionally enable this container analysis API. I'll leave that as default. So the repository provider for me is github.com, right? So I'll choose that. And if you have not enabled the access for your Google Cloud console, the access to your GitHub repository, you can go ahead and do that. Once I have provided access to that, I'll find the repositories here, right? So I cannot see this Animal Kingdom repository in the list of repositories. So what I'll do is I'll just go and manage connected repositories. I'll choose my user account. I'll log into my GitHub account. I have enabled the Google Authenticator on this login. All right. So once I provide access, I'll select the repository, which is Animal Kingdom, and click on Save. So once I provide access to the repository, I will find that repository which I just authorized this application to access. Click on I understand checkbox. So leave the default options. Click on Next. So the build configuration will be actually pulling, if at all there is a cloudbuild.yaml file, it will look for that file. And let's proceed with the Docker file because our root directory also has a Docker file, which is this, right? So I'll just go ahead and select that. And the location of the Docker file is directly in the root. If your Docker file is somewhere inside one of the directories, let's say, for example, controllers, you can just provide the relative path here. So I'll go ahead and click on Save. So once I have this configured, I'll go ahead and select the service name. My service name will be configurable here, which is Animal Kingdom. And the region is something that you can choose, right? So I'll go ahead with the default selected region and CPU allocation and pricing, right? So there are two options here. CPU is allotted only when a request is being processed, right? The other option is CPU is always allotted, right? The benefit with the first option is that you will be charged only when a request arises for the URL where your Cloud Run service is running, and you will get the benefit out of it. So this is a kind like exactly equivalent to a serverless model of running your application on Cloud Run, right? So, and the minimum instances, if you provide 0, this is when you actually get the benefit out of the cost, right? So the maximum number of instances, I will go ahead and reduce it to 3 for the sake of demonstration purposes. And I'll enable the ingress traffic. So as my application, which is running on the Cloud Run, is I want this application to be publicly available. So I'll allow unauthenticated invocations to this publicly running Cloud Run application. The next thing is containers, connections, and security. So we'll go ahead and configure the options for each. First thing is we have container tab followed by connections and security tab. In the container tab, the container port is 80 for our use case. As we can see that we have exposed port 80 in our Docker file. So I do not have any custom container comments, but if you have, you can go ahead and mention them here. And the comments, if you have any arguments that need, you can mention them here. So I leave these two text boxes empty. So the next thing is, if at all you want to have startup CPU boost, this will be beneficial if you are choosing with the CPU is allotted only during the request processing, and you will have some sort of boost, right? So I'll go ahead and enable this. And for the sake of demonstration purpose, I'll go ahead with 256, but there are a wide range of memory capacities available to you. And also the CPU can see various number of CPUs that you can allot for this Cloud Run instance. So I'll go ahead and choose one. And the request timeout is something that I have given as 300 seconds, which has come to this text box by default. And the maximum request per container I have selected as 80. I'll leave this as the default value. And you can understand more about the concurrency by clicking on this link. And when it comes to execution environment, I'll go ahead with the default. If you want to choose either first generation or second generation, you can go ahead and do that. Both these options have worked well for the deployment that we are doing right now. And before we proceed to the environment variables, I'll go ahead and click on Connections tab. As our application, which is about to be deployed on Cloud Run, talks to a PostgreSQL database that is running on Cloud SQL. So I'll go ahead and add a connection in the Cloud SQL Connections section. My Animal Kingdom database is this, right? And if you just click on Overview, this is the connection name, which you will see once you click on the dropdown, right? So I'll go ahead and allow this Cloud Run application to establish communication to this database. And I'll leave the other options as is without touching any other value, but you can explore HTTP2 or session affinity. In the security tab, so you will have a default compute service account, which will be created unless otherwise it's already created. Otherwise, you will also have the option to choose a different service account, but I'll go ahead and have this service account created for me. And the encryption is Google managed encryption key. We have configured connections such that we have established a connection to our Cloud SQL instance. So back to our container. Now we will go ahead and add environment variable. As we do not have any environment variable, I'll leave this option as is. Now it's time for us to reference some secrets, right? So here I'll go ahead and click on security and secret manager. So here I have three secrets. I'll go ahead and refer each one of them, right? So the first secret is the connection string, right? So I am about to authorize this Cloud Run to actually read the value of this particular secret, right? So I'm granting the permission. So, and this secret's value will be exposed as an environment variable, and the name of that secret will be exposed in the form of connection strings, single colon, animal kingdom context. The reason for that is our program.cs is actually reading the connection string by calling get connection string and animal kingdom context. So get connection string actually reads the section connection strings, right? So this is what we have reflected here in the first place before the colon, and followed by the actual value which actually holds the connection string. And I would like to always refer to the latest version, and I'll go ahead and click on done to add this particular secret that needs to be exposed as an environment variable. The second reference that I'm going to add as a secret is the GCP storage auth file. So this is a misnomer because it does not hold the file, but in fact the contents of the JSON file for the service account that we have created a while ago, which actually has the access of storage object admin. It will be exposed as an environment variable, and the name of the environment variable will be same. And I would like to have the latest version available for the environment variable. And the third one is the bucket name. as I have been mentioning, you can also create this environment variable here, right? If at all you have any, right? So I'll anyhow, as I have already added that as a secret, I'll go ahead and grant access for Cloudrun to access the value of this particular secret, and I'll reference it as a environment variable. And the name of the environment variable, I want to refer it as is the Google Cloud Storage bucket name, and the version is latest. All right. So with this configuration in place, we'll go ahead and create this Cloud Run revision. So trigger execution failed. Source could not be built or deployed. So we can have more build logs here. But even before that, we have to add one environment variable, which is aspnetcore environment. So here I am on the edit mode of the Cloud Run that we have just created, and I'm going to click on add variable, and the variable name will be aspnetcore underscore environment, and the value will be production. All right, so I'll just uncheck this and click on deploy. So because the reason for that is I'll go ahead and look for the cloud build in the new tab. Here we can see the trigger has been created. All right. So we can look at the trigger details. All right. So whenever a push happens to the branch, this trigger gets created, and it will actually look for the source code from this repository, from the main branch, and it has detected the cloud build YAML file, and it has identified various populated various values for the environment variables. And yeah, all right. So let me go ahead and look at the history. The first build has failed. Let's see why. All right. So your build failed to also could not parse. Okay. Let's retry this, or maybe let's run this trigger. All right. Let me see. It's an animal kingdom. Okay. And if we so whether this is able to identify the YAML file. Okay, this has to be YAML. Sorry, my bad. So I'll just go ahead and rename this to the extension YAML. So this has been pushed onto the main branch. All right. So let's switch back to the triggers, and let's delete this. We'll recreate our trigger on our cloud run. So here I'm on our cloud run, and I'll go ahead and set up continuous deployment and choose the repository one last time and click on next. Select Dockerfile. Though we are choosing Dockerfile, we'll go ahead and use cloudbuild.yaml file. Let's look at triggers that we have. All right, so let me run this trigger and see if this works in the same. Okay, so when we run this trigger, problem we are seeing every time we run this trigger is it is not able to parse this image name. The reason for that, let's see if we can find any results. Let's remove the project specific info. It says that the upper cases are not accepted when it comes to project name, which is very weird, right? So in order to get around this problem, we do not have to change our project's name from uppercase A and K to lowercase, but there is a hack around this. So I'll just show you how. So here we have this list of environment variables, and service name is the image name. And what we have to do is look at the official documentation that lets you override the repo name, and we'll add the repo name here, and we'll mention the repo name as lowercase letters R. All right. So let's say this. All right. So let's run this application trigger one last time to see if this succeeds. The trigger started. As we can see that in our YAML file, these are the steps that we had: build, push, and deploy. These steps are replicated here in each of the steps in the build summary. Build, push, and deploy with index starting from 0, 1, and then 2. So I'll go ahead and turn on the show newest entries first and peek at the top. So it is still building the application as per the instructions that were mentioned in the build step. So the build step says that using this Docker build and the arguments are no cache, it is trying to generate a tagged version of the image with this nomenclature, right? That's what it is doing, right? So it has, once it has built this image, it will perform the push, right? So as per the steps that were mentioned here, the image will be pushed to the GCR hostname that is actually picked up by our cloud build trigger and the project ID, which is our project ID, animal dash kingdom, and the service name, which is the cloud run service name, the commit SHA, which will be the SHA of the commit. And finally, it will be deploying the image on the service, which is the Cloud Run service. Using this command, with the help of Cloud SDK, it will provide arguments run, deploy, and the service name. And the service name will be deployed with the image, which is the image that it has just built and pushed on ccr.io. And that image will be pushed onto a service that is running in the region that we are providing it through the environment variable again, right? That's as intuitive as is the explanation of this cloudbuild.yaml file. The build has succeeded. Like as we see, the build has succeeded. Let's go back to our Cloud Run application, right? So here we are, refresh this page again. Let's look at the revisions, right? 1 minute ago, it has deployed and it has 0% traffic, right? So let's launch this application. What could be the issue? So we have the container port 80 and we have aspnetcore environment. Let's build this one more time. Okay, so we have unselected serve this revision immediately. That's why we are still not able to see. So let me choose this option and click on deploy. And this time it will be deploying the latest image that is already pushed on the container registry of Google. And it will pull that image and deploy it onto the Google Cloud Run. And it has deployed. Let's see. Ta-da. This is our Animal Kingdom application. And let's look on Animals menu. All right, we have landed on Animals menu. And before we run anything, as we are on Animals database, Animals table, let's view if at all we have any records in this. All right, so we have 0 records. And even before we go ahead and let's close all these tabs to the right, including this one. And I'll go ahead and open cloud storage buckets in a new tab just to ensure that our bucket have no objects inside it. All right, it's a brand new bucket. All right, so let me close this. And now I'll go ahead and create a new animal, which will be lion, 4 years old. And I'll use the picture. I'll go ahead and create. All right, cool. So let's look at the details. This looks good. And the things that we are supposed to check now is look at the contents of the bucket to see the lion image appears. Look at the database to see the record for animal lion exists. All right. So this looks good. And there are various things that we would like to understand when we are deploying applications on Cloud Run, right? So the very important thing among deploying your applications to Cloud Run is the ability to configure service level objectives, right? So let's create different kinds of service level objectives. So here I am on the cloudrun service, and here is the tab that indicates SLO. I'll go ahead and click on create SLO, and here I am on the service level indicator. So to give you a brief, service level indicator is something that uh, tracks your service level objective. Even before that, service level objective is something that you have set an objective on your cloud run service such that, for example, let's say you want to have your service available 99.9% of the time for the last 5 days rolling period, right? So this is what the service level objective you have defined. And once you define that objective, you come back to service level indicator that will keep on tracking your application's performance based on the objective that you have defined and alert you if at all there is a deviation from the objective that you have set on the app's cloud run, right? So let's go ahead and create one service level objective for our service cloud run. So this time I am going to choose a metric availability for the first time, and it will be a request based. So I want my application to be available, and the indicators are available to us as of now, like for the last 1 hour or so. And let me continue. So the objective I'm about to define is a calendar. For a given calendar week, I would like to see 99.9% of my requests to be up and running, right? Right. So that, like, I would let, sorry, it's 99.9. I would let 0.1% of the requests to fail, but beyond which I have zero tolerance in terms of performance of this application, right? So this is what the objective that I'm defining here. Okay, it's somehow, okay, it's 9. So let's click on continue, and I'm reviewing this. So it has automatically tilted the SLO as 99.9% availability in a given calendar week, right? So I'll go ahead and create that. Not adhering to this particular SLI, let's say there is a delay in the availability or if the service goes down, there will be some indicator and alert mechanism that you can configure, and you will go ahead and choose who can be notified, right? So, and all those things. I'll go ahead and do this. There is another SLO of type based on the latency. This is purely based on the request throughput that you can configure on, right? So I'll choose latency this time and request based only. Or like, let's continue. So I would like to have a request to perform within 300 milliseconds of time, failing which I would consider the application performance to be very slow. And I'll go ahead and create a service level objective such that in a rolling period of last 7 days, right? So I would like to have my requests 99.9% of my requests have must have responded less than 300 milliseconds of time, right? So I'm okay if 0.1% of the time if they have responded more than 300 milliseconds, but for the rest of the 99.9% of the time, for a given last 7 days at any point of time from now on in the future, should be added to this particular service level objective that I'm defining, right? So this is what the JSON representation looks like. And yeah, so as we have just started, it will take some time, like after 7 days, you will start seeing the accurate results for this service level objective, right? So coming to the next tab is the logs tab, where you can look at various application specific logs. If at all your application code generates logs, they will be actually captured and shown here. You can also have a full view of the logs wherein you can customize your query for a particular app service, which is Cloud Run, right? And you can also project on or narrow down depending upon the type of loss or the CVRT, right? So far, there were no bugs. So I'm not seeing any bugs here, which usually shows up as red icon here, right? All right. So the next one is revision. Revision is the very popular feature, right? If you understand it very well, you can leverage this revisions feature very well for features such as A/B testing or load balancing or like serving your customers in a very efficient manner, right? So here you can see, let me close the other tabs here. All right. So this is the URL of our application, right? So this is animal kingdom slash some random characters and then app and all. Okay. And the application is stable now. So I'll go ahead and create a tag version of this, which will be stable. And for the latest revision, I'll go ahead and create another URL, which will be like latest. All right. So I'll go ahead and save. After saving, I will be presented with two URLs to access this particular instance of deployment, like or particular revision of deployment, right? So one is stable and another is latest. Let's go ahead and open both these URLs. You will notice that there is a difference in the URL. This is latest as we have named it and stable as we have named it. And our application's main URL, which shows up on the service detail in the URL label, will still remain the same and it will remain unchanged, right? So now that if I want to have a different version, right? So as I have named the latest version as latest itself, if at all a new deployment happens on this particular Cloud Run, the latest label or the latest tag gets revised and points to the latest revision of the application that is just deployed. So let's look at how we can achieve that. So here I'm on my application code. This would be a very good chance for me to demonstrate the CI/CD pipeline that I have configured on GCP via Cloud Build. So I'll go ahead and change the view on the home page, right? So in addition to displaying welcome to Animal Kingdom, I'll go ahead and add a header too that says, let's write something funny. Okay, humans are welcome to. All right. So I'll go ahead and commit this change. Next page changes, CI CD demonstration of cloudbuild.yaml. All right, so I'll commit staged and push, and I'll just simply push it. And let's see the latest one. All right, 16 seconds ago. And what will happen behind the scenes is build history, right? Our trigger will actually is configured in such a way that it will detect any changes or commits that were being pushed on main branch. So it has already started running. So let this build run successfully and we'll come back again. and observe how our app service revisions change. All right. So the build trigger succeeded and it has successfully deployed, as we can see here on the logs of the build, right? So let's go back to our cloud run and refresh before we have that, right? So the last time we published our changes was 14 minutes ago. And on this revision, we have applied two tags as we recall it stable and latest. As I mentioned, the latest will keep on moving up the revisions, and the stable one, unless we move it, it will still remain the same. Okay. So the benefit of having the revisions is something like you can do some A/B testing on these two URLs, right? So you can configure your load balancer such that a few percent of the requests will be routed to latest one, and rest of the request will be routed to the stable one, such that if at all your application has a mixed panel event or something of that sort configured on the user interface, you can track the user behavior and perform some A/B testing and deploy the latest stable version or the most suitable version you think uh, is suitable for your customers, right? So that's the thing. But you don't have to do all the kind of load balancing or managing these URLs, all those things. You have the option to manage traffic that is actually offered to you by Cloudrun itself, right? So click on the three icons. You have the option to manage traffic. So I would like to route my 80% of the request to the stable tag because I am full and fine routing those requests to the stable version of my application because I might be so tentative about the performance of the latest tag that has just been deployed, right? So I'll just route 20% of my traffic to the latest one. So I'll just go ahead and click on save, right? So even before we look at the actual URL of the app service, Cloud Run service, let's open the URLs that are specific to stable and latest tags. Here is the stable tag, which is the old version of application. And if we refresh here, we will not see the new header. Here is the latest tag that actually keeps on incrementing as the revision increments, and it points to the latest revision. When we refresh this, I'm supposed to expect another header H2. Let me refresh that. All right, see, the new changes are here, right? So the stable tag will still have the stable version of application, and the latest tag will show me all the time the latest thing. But as per the configuration that I have made, saying that 80% of the requests will be routed to the old stable tag, whereas only 20% of the requests will be routed to the latest tag. So here I'm on my app cloud runs service URL, and as is the old version, which is 80% of the request routed, right? So I would more likely to see the old stable version. And let me refresh this so that I can land on the 20% of the request, right? So if I perform this a number of times, I would rather see, provided that I perform 100 requests, 80 of my requests will show uh, the old version, which is a stable version, and rest of the 20 requests out of 100 will show me the latest version like this. All right. So this is the advantage that you will get, right? So as you can see, you can also visualize the percentage of traffic that is forcefully allotted for these two versions of your application, right? So yeah, that's pretty much about how to deploy your ASP.NET Core MVC application onto cloudrun. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any doubts, please leave your doubts in the comment section of this video. And if you found this video helpful, please do give it a like. Please do definitely share it with your friends and colleagues. Please do subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon. And have a great day. Bye.